They called her America's comedy queen. But behind the laughter was a childhood filled with poverty, addiction, and betrayal. This is the scandalous truth Hollywood never told you about Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett is often remembered as America's comedy sweetheart, a trailblazer who broke barriers in television, inspired generations, and redefined what it meant to be a female star in a male-dominated industry. But while the cameras captured endless laughter, behind the scenes her life was a whirlwind of heartbreak, shocking revelations, and a rivalry so bitter it left scars she carried for decades. This is the untold story of Carol Burnett. Hello friends, we're excited to share that we now offer a membership program. By joining, you'll get early access to our videos, extra ways to participate, and special perks designed just for our members. Becoming a member is simple, safe, and a wonderful way to support our channel. Your support helps us continue creating content you enjoy, and it means so much to have you as part of our community. We'd love for you to join us and enjoy these benefits. Thank you for being here and supporting what we do. Imagine growing up in a world where your own parents can't take care of you, where every single day feels uncertain and survival depends not on comfort, but on pure grit. That was the reality for Carol Burnett. Born in San Antonio, Texas in 1933, Carol's childhood was anything but glamorous. Both of her parents struggled with alcoholism, and the weight of their addiction cast a shadow over her earliest years. By the time she was old enough to understand what stability meant, it was already gone. She ended up in Los Angeles, crammed into a modest apartment with her grandmother. Money was scarce, dreams even scarcer. The world didn't expect greatness from her. If anything, it seemed stacked against her from the start. But here's where things get shocking. Instead of collapsing under all that pain, young Carol found a weapon: laughter. She turned hardship into comedy, mimicking voices, performing silly acts, and transforming the chaos around her into entertainment. While her family fell apart, she created her own universe, powered by imagination. This wasn't just a little girl being playful. This was survival. And slowly, without even realizing it, Carol was training herself to become one of the greatest performers America had ever seen. But destiny wasn't done surprising her, because what happened next sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie. Carol wanted to study journalism at UCLA, something practical, something safe. But deep inside, a different fire was burning. She wanted to perform, to sing, to act, to make the world laugh. The problem? She was broke. No money, no connections, no plan. Her dream felt impossible. And then, this is where the story takes a turn so wild it almost feels made up. Carol's entire life changed because of a mystery stranger. One night after a performance, a man approached her with an offer that would sound suspicious to anyone else. He told her, "You have something special. You belong in New York City, and I'm going to make sure you get there." He handed her a check, enough money to pack up her life and move across the country. But here's the twist. He wanted nothing in return. No contract, no hidden agenda, just one condition. He told Carol, "Someday, when you're successful, help someone else the way I helped you." Think about that. A young, broke girl with no prospects suddenly had a golden ticket to New York City simply because a stranger believed in her. It's almost scandalous when you realize how many doors in Hollywood stay locked forever, yet Carol's was kicked open by fate itself. And she did it. She took the money, she took the risk, and she boarded a train that would change not only her future, but the future of American comedy forever. But as we'll see, success doesn't come without enemies. And some of the people closest to her would become her greatest sources of pain. When Carol Burnett finally arrived in New York City, she wasn't walking into opportunity. She was walking into a battlefield. The entertainment industry was brutal, unforgiving, and let's be honest, especially cruel to women in the 1950s. She had no family connections, no powerful friends, nothing but raw talent and a hunger that couldn't be ignored. At first, Carol was scraping by, living in a tiny apartment, sometimes skipping meals just to make rent. But in the middle of that struggle, she started getting small spots on variety shows. And every time she hit the stage, people noticed. It wasn't just her voice, her face, or her comedic timing. It was her fearlessness. Carol didn't just perform, she risked everything with each act. One night, she sang a wild parody number called "I Made a Fool of Myself Over John Foster Dulles." Now, imagine this. A young woman on live TV openly poking fun at the sitting US Secretary of State. It was insane, risky, and completely unheard of. Everyone thought she'd ruin her career before it even started. Instead, the opposite happened. That single performance launched her into stardom. Audiences couldn't get enough of this fearless, unpredictable woman who dared to laugh at the untouchable. And suddenly, Carol Burnett wasn't just another performer. She was the performer to watch, the one who could make you cry laughing one minute and break your heart the next. But even that was just the warm-up. Because soon, Carol would take a risk so huge, so outrageous, it would change television forever. By the late 1960s, Carol had built a name for herself in the business. But then came the moment that would define her legacy and shake the TV industry to its core. In 1967, The Carol Burnett Show premiered on CBS. Now, this wasn't just another variety program. At the time, primetime television was dominated almost exclusively by men. The idea of a woman headlining and leading her own sketch show, it sounded impossible. Executives thought she'd fail. Critics predicted disaster. But Carol didn't care. She didn't just step into that role. She owned it. From the very first episode, the show was electric. Sketches weren't just funny. They were unforgettable. She built outrageous characters like the scatterbrained secretary, Mrs. Wiggins, and the dysfunctional Eunice from the family sketches. She went all out with full-blown parodies, mocking Hollywood classics with productions so over the top they felt like entire movies squeezed into a comedy sketch. And the audience, they weren't just watching, they were obsessed. Week after week, millions tuned in, not just to laugh, but to see what this daring, unpredictable woman would do next. But here's the part no one talks about. Behind the glamour, behind the laughter, there was tension. Big tension. While America saw Carol leading a joyful ensemble, Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, Vicki Lawrence, and Lyle Waggoner, off camera, the relationships were far more complicated. The truth? Some of the very people who helped make the show legendary were also the ones who caused Carol the deepest personal pain. And one man in particular, her closest collaborator, would become the person she later admitted she despised more than anyone else in her life. To the world, Harvey Korman and Carol Burnett were magic. Their sketches on The Carol Burnett Show are still considered some of the greatest comedy moments in television history. Together, they had timing so sharp, chemistry so perfect, that audiences believed they were not just colleagues, but close friends. But behind the scenes, the truth was far darker. Carol later admitted something that stunned fans everywhere. She absolutely hated Harvey Korman. In fact, she confessed that out of everyone she had ever known, Harvey was the one person she despised more than anyone else. Why? Because Harvey Korman was a nightmare behind the cameras. He was moody, arrogant, and unpredictable. Some days he was charming and brilliant. Other days he exploded at the smallest criticism, throwing tantrums and poisoning the energy on set. Carol, who had fought her entire life to create a loving, creative environment, saw his behavior as sabotage. It didn't stop there. Carol often felt Harvey disrespected her, acting as if her contributions meant less, as if she was just another cog in the machine instead of the woman carrying the entire show. For a woman who had broken barriers in a male-dominated industry, that arrogance cut deep. The worst part? They couldn't escape each other. For 11 long seasons, Carol had to stand next to the man she secretly couldn't stand. Imagine it, filming sketches that made America cry with laughter, all while fighting the urge to scream behind the scenes. That tension ate at her for years, boiling into a level of resentment that turned into genuine hatred. It's the kind of scandal that pulls the curtain back on Hollywood. The public sees perfection, but the reality is often ugly, messy, and painfully human. Carol's confession shocked fans because it proved one thing. Behind all the glamour and comedy, she was just as human as the rest of us. Even America's sweetheart had someone she couldn't forgive. And the irony, the person she hated the most was the very man who helped make her show legendary. Carol Burnett's story is one of contradictions. Laughter and pain, friendship and hatred, triumph and tragedy. She gave the world comedy that will never be forgotten. Yet behind the curtain, she battled demons, endured heartbreaking losses, and confessed to harboring feelings far darker than anyone could have imagined. Maybe that's what makes her legacy so powerful. She wasn't just a star, she was human, and in her humanity, she gave us all permission to laugh, even when life hurt the most.